Hey everyone, Skull902 here, and since I've finished my LPs of the main classic Sonic games, for the playthroughs anyway, CD's extra video coming sometime, I wanted to take a look back at my personal history with the franchise. Since the classic games are super nostalgic for plenty of fans, I thought it'd be the right time to do this video. Credit where it's due. I was also inspired by Clement's Why I Like Sonic video and a really nice writing by Symph called Sonic's Big 20, both of which I'm putting in the description. With that said, let's get into it. The first thing I can remember about the franchise is waking up one day in 1998 at the age of 4 to the credits of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog playing on the local UPN station. I vaguely remember knowing it was Sonic, so I must have gotten a little familiar with the Blue Hedgehog before, probably through other airings of the show or commercials or something. Then, in the summer of 2001, while taking a trip to Toys R Us to look for Dragon Ball Z figures, I happened upon Resaurus's 12-inch Sonic figure. I remember saying, "Hey look, it's Sonic," in a way that was hopefully less annoying than Tails' line delivery in Heroes. I remember the commercials for Sonic Adventure 2 Battle very vividly when the game was coming out for the GameCube, and the first time I ever played a Sonic game, it was SA2B with my older brother at a kiosk at that same Toys R Us. He wouldn't tell me how to jump off the ramps in City Escape once he found out. Cheating motherfucker. Anyway, in 2004 I watched an episode of Sonic X, Satellite Swindle specifically, and remember being entertained by it. I'd see him pop up on G4 every now and then, and I attempted to play some games on Sonic Mega Collection Plus when my school got a PS2 as part of an activity center thing that classes could reserve. I swear, none of those games would start no matter what button I was pressing. It was weird. But with that bit of exposure to Sonic I got between 1998 and 2005, I never became a fan of Sonic. There was some interest, but never enough to go asking my parents for a game or a toy or anything like that. Let me tell you what made me become a gamer. Christmas Day 2001, my family and I received a Super Nintendo from one of my mom's friends as a gift. Amongst the other games included with the system, we were given a copy of Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World. I loved Donkey Kong Country and DKC 2, I got some entertainment out of Pac-Man 2 and Space Invaders, but those 5 classic Super Mario Bros. Titles, including the best 2D platformer ever made in my opinion, were what made gaming one of my favorite hobbies, and once I first played it, I was a Mario fan for life. Even when my interest in playing waned a little bit for close to 2 years, I would never turn down a chance to play me some Mario. I didn't even get another Mario game until 2.5 years later. That's how much this one cartridge had me sucked in. Now, did being such a big fan of Sonic's #1 rival have an impact on my interest in Sega's series? I don't really think it did, but maybe, who fucking knows. What I do know is that Mario was my favorite series in gaming, but that began to change in the early goings of 2006. It must have been around February or March 2006, but around that time frame I got familiar with a kid that rode the same bus as me who nearly always brought these weird-looking Sonic plushes on the way to school and back. He and I made up some silly stories with them, and he, as well as another kid, told me a tiny bit more about Sonic X. I caught a small glimpse of an episode on TV during this period, where Amy got freaked out after painting over Espio's face. I couldn't have channel surfed at a better moment. These events would lead me to gain more of an interest in learning about the series. Not to a super high extent, but it was there. I'd be invested if a commercial came on or I saw something on G4. I even thought Sonic 06 looked interesting after seeing a pre-release showcase of it on the network. Oh, how stupid I was. I remember the commercial for Secret Rings really well at the start of 2007, watching TV super late at night during a pretty bad period in my life. It gave me some good vibes, but maybe that's because all the Wii commercials at the time were great. Early on in 2007, I also played Sonic 2 for the first time on a Genesis at my middle school. I remember having problems with the spin dash because I'm really dumb like that, and Chemical Plant was just impossible. So I got a little more Sonic experience, but I wasn't a full-fledged fan. The internet would change that a few months later. See, throughout my life up to that point, I almost never had consistent internet access. Sometimes I would connect to AOL on dial-up and go look at sites like WWE.com or Power Rangers Central when I was a kid, but nothing too extravagant. I only saw a little bit of YouTube during its initial rise into popularity. So, getting a computer to finally gain consistent internet access in February 2007 was pretty cool. We had to send it back to the shop to get fixed almost immediately, but once it came back, I created my first real YouTube account in March. Most of my first couple months were spent watching wrestling videos, but later in the spring I discovered YouTube poops, plenty of which had Sonic content in them. From there I did some searching into Sonic-related content and found a very dear friend of mine who gave me the beginner's course on the Sonic franchise. I remember her telling me the plot to episode 9 of Sonic X over the course of about half an hour or so in a chat room. She made a bunch of music videos that I liked. I started watching Sonic gameplay and speedruns, reading about Sonic on Wikipedia, looking into other fan-made videos and all this other stuff. With her influence, as well as the research and fun I was having looking into the franchise, I got hooked. I became a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog in May 2007, which coincided with my becoming a teenager. That summer was incredible getting myself acclimated to the series. I remember watching episodes of all the TV series in multiple parts, the immersion I felt viewing the OVA for the first time, my little brother and I getting into Sprite comics. My older brother found a way to read the Archie comics and I read through the first 50 issues. It was amazing. Sonic was what inspired me to make videos of my own for YouTube, and yeah, they were horrible Movie Maker slideshows, but I was having fun. Then, around the series anniversary, the Backbone port of Sonic 1 came out for the 360 and my older brother got it. I had my own save file on there and didn't get past Labyrinth Zone. I tried to do the achievement of beating the game without dying, but accidentally save stated when I was drowning and it was too late to save myself. I didn't get a whole lot of opportunity to play on the 360, but in the fall, my little brother went to GameStop and brought back the copy of Sonic Mega Collection for the GameCube that I had requested. Now I could play a bunch of Sonic's games all on one convenient disc. Sure, I sucked ass at those games, but unlocking new content and looking at the galleries and stuff was super cool. In November of that year, I got my first bit of Sonic merch as an early Christmas gift. A set of 5 Toy Network plushes of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and Shadow. Then a little later on, I got a second set of plushes, 12-inch versions of the characters I had before, as well as Eggman and Big. I wanted to make stupid plush adventure videos with them, but thankfully never got very far with that idea. I just couldn't get enough of this series, man. That would continue into 2008 as well. Aside from briefly having a copy of Heroes for the PC, which we lost soon after we got it, I didn't get any new games for a while. Most of the year I remember the hype for Sonic Unleashed and being sad I couldn't play any version of it. At least I got to play the 360 demo. But then, finally, on October 14th of that year, I took a trip to GameStop and got a copy of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Finally got it after watching those commercials so many times, and wow, what a fun game that was. Sure, the treasure hunting stages and some bosses got frustrating for a first-time playthrough, but the Sonic and Shadow levels would always make that stuff worth it. The Chow raising was super fun, it had a brilliant soundtrack, and it would eventually become my favorite overall game for a time. Then in early December, I got the GameCube versions of Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog. Heroes was a fun time, even if I never even beat Team Sonic's story before the memory card got corrupted. And Shadow pleasantly surprised me. Yeah, it definitely has its flaws, but I actually like the base gameplay for the most part. For Christmas, I got a copy of Sonic Adventure DX, and I loved it nearly as much as Adventure 2 for a lot of the same reasons. Now, I'm god-awful at video games, and it will take me a while longer than most to beat some of them. But something clicked when I played SADX, and by my standards, I actually beat it fairly quickly. I started playing it on Christmas Eve and finished up Supersonic's story in the early morning hours on January 2nd, 2009. Now, this wasn't just a run-of-the-mill beating the game thing for me. This was the very first video game I ever did beat, and believe me, after 7 years of gaming, getting that final hit on Perfect Chaos was so cathartic. My little sister was around to see me beat the game and we celebrated, as calmly as we could so we wouldn't wake anyone up. It was a great feeling and gave me the drive to get out of a point I was stuck at in SA2. I had the same feeling beating SA2 on February 21st that I did beating SA1. I finally did it. After all this time, I was capable of playing a game from the beginning all the way to the credits. I had gotten a Dreamcast in early 2009 after the one I got for Christmas was dead on arrival, and I pretty much immediately went to beat the Dreamcast versions of the Sonic Adventure games as well after I had finished up their GameCube equivalents. Then, things stayed mostly the same over the next 3 years. I always wanted more, but the games I had were enough to keep me engaged and satisfied. That's until I got an Xbox 360 of my own for my 18th birthday in 2012. Had I originally gotten the $300 console like I wanted, I would have been stuck with a copy of Halo Reach. But noticing that Sonic Generations was $30 at the store I got it from, I decided to get the $200 console instead. The very limited 4GB of storage I got would bite me in the ass later, but I'd say Generations was worth it. I had to pack away my other consoles for the new setup, so I'm honestly glad it worked out. Playing a Sonic game which was still relatively new at the time was amazing to me, and I loved that game to death. Beating it in the morning of a bright, sunny summer day just before going to hang out with a friend was one of the best feelings I've ever had with a video game. I added to it by getting the HD version of Sonic CD by Christian Whitehead. Aside from the Metal Sonic fight, I was surprised by just how easy that one was in comparison to the other classics, which I thought were pretty tough at the time. My desire to beat them was still there though, And in November of that year, I decided to give the Genesis controller and Generations a shot and played the Sonic 1 port they included in the game. It was a bit of a struggle, and I ultimately got the bad ending, but I beat it. I had beaten the original Sonic the Hedgehog, and I was once again in a celebratory mood. I considered it one of my biggest gaming accomplishments, up there with beating the adventure games or Super Mario Lost Levels. Little did I know what was in store for me just a couple months ahead, because that feeling I felt couldn't compare to the ones that I got from my first playthrough of Sonic Unleashed. I had a cup of coffee with Unleashed when I was 15, owned it for 6 days as a birthday present before my mom returned it. I didn't have a 360 of my own, and she thought my older brother and I were going to bicker over me playing it, so back to GameStop it went. That made me fairly sad. For Christmas that year, a buddy of mine actually got me another copy. He had a 360 at his house, and I told him to keep it there in the meantime so maybe he and his own brother could try it out. Fast forward 3.5 years. I've had my own 360 for a little while now, my friend has since become super busy with his job, and I was looking for a new Sonic experience. I had asked him every once in a while for a couple months before he was finally able to give the game back to me, and I started playing it on January 28th, 2013. From then until I beat it on March 10th, I was in for something I hadn't expected. The sense of immersion I got playing through Unleashed was absolutely incredible. Anyone who watches my channel might know how much I love Star Fox Adventures. I got similar vibes playing Unleashed as I did watching my older brother play through that game. I don't know if it had anything to do with them both involving a broken planet you need to put back together, but it just felt so grand, exciting, and magical to me. I loved Sonic's daytime gameplay, just as I did Generations. I actually liked the Werehog levels that had more to do with platforming than combat. Hell, I didn't even think the metal collecting was that bad. The game had all these wonderful locations to roam at both day and night, human characters that were engaging and had charm, the plot was big with a perfect balance of comedic and grounded moments, the music was beautiful, maybe with the exception of the Werehog's battle theme constantly blaring, and the intentionally bad rendition of the World Adventure when you got an E rank, and the graphics were absolutely gorgeous. Why can't Sonic games be this pretty again, damn it? I definitely felt it with the adventure games as well, but Unleashed gave me such a bigger sense of that immersion I was talking about. Star Fox gave me the same sense, difference being that this was my own journey now, and it felt truly amazing. So much so that it became my favorite video game overall for a while, and is still my favorite Sonic game to this day. Aside from Unleashed and Generations, later on that year I did manage to get Sonic 1's good ending on the 360 version using that version's save state system. I still had much to learn, but would soon get that opportunity. Once I moved into a new place in the middle of 2013, I started playing on my consoles significantly less. This opened me up to emulators. My crappy old computer could only really run Visual Boy Advance and Kega Fusion, but at least I was able to play anything at all. I played a bit of Sonic Advance 1 and liked it enough, but didn't get anywhere close to finishing it, and VBA sort of became my Pokemon emulator for a while. My real Sonic experience with emulation around the time comes from Fusion. Getting Sonic 1's good ending without using the save states of the 360 version, and beating Sonic 2 as well as 3 and Knuckles for the first time, I could feel my skills at the classics improving. I was getting into game commentary at the time and recorded a playthrough of Sonic 1 for my group, Super Chaos Comms. It took me a while to get all the emeralds first try at the earliest possible time, but man was it rewarding to do so. I tried the original version of Sonic CD and wasn't really into it, so the main Genesis games were mostly what I had to play around with for quite a while. That and the occasional ROM hack. Mostly character swap mods for Sonic 1, but I also remember playing Sonic Megamix and Sonic Classic Heroes, then trying out some others when I had to start using my grandma's computer when my old one broke. So, for about 4 years, that was almost all I had. I did plug in my consoles and play every now and then, and when I got a Wii near the end of 2014, I soon also got a copy of Sonic Colors as a Christmas gift. The game's opening when you boot it up still gives me the good kind of chills. That was the first 3D game in the series I beat in a single sitting with my initial playthrough. 4.5 hours of game time, but I did it. I loved it so much I kinda let myself get sucked into the experience. Only a couple levels gave me trouble, but overall it was pretty smooth sailing. I was a little surprised by how quickly I beat it, but those 4.5 hours were a hell of a time just after New Year's. The story was fun, I liked most of the wisps. There was a lack of 3D gameplay, but I felt the game made up for that with its consistently good, fun levels. I'd put Colors between Unleashed and Generations for my favorite of the Boost games. Later on, for my 21st birthday, my buddy Josh gifted me a copy of Sonic Unleashed for the Wii. I still haven't played too much of it. Sorry, Josh. Then, near the end of 2017, I moved once again, got my own PC, and played Sonic Mania on Steam. Finally, after all this time as a fan, I got to play a Sonic game the same year it was released. My first playthrough wasn't so great, and I distinctly remember not being happy when I beat it. That changed once I got more familiar with it, but some of my thoughts remain the same. The level design isn't quite up there with the best levels of the originals. There are some moments that can really confuse a first-time player, the boss battles are hit and miss, and that combined with the special stages can make it a little tougher for beginners than it needs to be, but I still love the game. Once I got better at it, these problems lessened quite a bit and I can thoroughly enjoy a playthrough now. 3 and Knuckles still tops my list for the classic Sonic style, but Mania was a damn good effort and I'd be supportive of a sequel. With Steam and my own personal computer, I was able to download the adventure games and Generations and experience them for the first time in years, and what a blast from the past. All this time gone by and I still love those gems. So now, the conclusion. I love this franchise quite a bit. It means a lot to me. It's my favorite series in video games, and there's quite a bit of reason for that. The Sonic series, in some way, shape, or form, was something I could go back to when I needed something to help me when I was feeling down, be it playing one of the games, watching the cartoons, or someone's LP, you name it. I really like the atmosphere and the characters, and that in turn helped me expand and improve on my writing. I love writing fan works for the franchise, mostly parody skits, but hey, it's fun. I don't know if I'd like writing quite as much if it wasn't for Sonic. Not to mention, most importantly, many of my best friends, too many to remember off the top of my head, I also met through some kind of connection to the series, and those friendships I hold very near and dear to me. You all rock. To put it simply, Sonic's left enough of a mark on me to be responsible for a great deal of the best memories and moments in my life, and I guess I'm just a grateful fan. And trust me, I'm not some kind of purist that likes everything Sonic. I know people are entitled to their opinions, but I do think the series as a whole has become underrated thanks to some bad games in the bunch. So when I see things like Johnny bashing Sonic Adventure 2, or Egoraptor playing the games badly on purpose to make them look worse than they really are, or especially something egregious as IGN's review of HD Unleashed, I feel a bit of a compulsion to defend what I do like about the franchise, even if I might inject some comedic bits here and there. Of course, I don't want to be obnoxious about it either. I just hope that there's a couple people out there who are willing to listen and respect my side of the debate as well. So that's why I'm a Sonic fan. If you feel so inclined, let me know why you like the series down in the comments. I've been Skull902, thank you for watching and have yourselves a wonderful day.